One small mistake in how you study can silently destroy your success and your growth. But the truth is, you don't recognize that as a mistake. In fact, you believe it's actually helping you to learn effectively. Since you are not noticing it over time, it affects your memory, your understanding, and your results. You revise a chapter for hours. A few minutes later, you try to solve a problem from the topic you learned. You struggle. You experience difficulties. You couldn't solve a problem. This is not because you didn't study well, but because of a small mistake in how you learned. You repeated the small mistake every day, and that slowly weakens your understanding. Think about driving. It looks simple, but driving depends on a sequence of small habits. If even one tiny habit goes wrong, it can lead to a serious accident. Learning also works in the same way. It is built on small habits, and if one of them is wrong, it can silently stop your growth and success. If you want to turn the vehicle left or right, you first check the rear view mirror, then you turn the steering wheel. Now imagine this. You turn the steering without checking the rear view mirror. What happens? You could end up in a serious accident. That small change in one habit leads to a big consequences. So if you want to correct this, you cannot blame driving. You identify the wrong habit and correct it consciously. Learning is exactly the same. If you don't get the expected result after studying, don't blame yourself. Instead, look for that one small habit that quietly affected your result, and for which you have to understand the sequence in learning. While learning, first you have to understand the concept, and then you have to retrieve the idea. After that, you have to apply the concept when it is needed. There are several factors that affect understanding, retrieval, and the application of knowledge. In this video, I will explain how many learners skip the retrieval aspect of learning without knowing they are skipping it. Most students only focus on the first step, that is the comprehension. They read and they reread, they feel familiar with the content, but they skip the most important step, that is the retrieval. And here is where the problem begins. After you understand a topic, either by reading or by listening to a teacher, you have to actively engage with the content. That happens through the active retrieval process. And this should happen while you revise a topic. What I have noticed with many students is that while revising, they read and reread, but they don't actively engage with the topic. Revision is not just reading, it is thinking. So, what you should do, you have to solve problems from the topic. You can use question banks or previous year questions to solve problems. Now, here is the important part. When you try to answer a question and if you have difficulty answering it, don't just mark it and leave. Go back to the concept and ask yourself, why couldn't I answer this? There is a gap in my understanding. What did this mean? How is the question connected to the concept I learned? This is the retrieval process. And once you involve in the retrieval process, learning becomes deeper and you can apply the knowledge when the situation demands. And this is what the most students skip. When you do this consistently, you start identifying your weak points, your understanding becomes stronger, and your answering questions become easier over time. But what happens when students don't get the expected result after repeating the same mistake again and again? They start believing something else. They say that maybe I am not intelligent enough, and slowly their brain reinforces that belief. But here is the truth, the brain is not weak. It is trying to save energy, and that is the reason why it is asking you to concentrate on an activity that saves energy. Because the moment you try to recall, your brain's executive control system has to work harder. It has to analyze ideas, connect concepts, bring information back to process again, and you have to apply this in a new situation. That requires effort, and this effort consumes more energy. So your brain naturally avoids it. It pushes you toward something easier. You read more, you reread more, you just recognize ideas because that feels comfortable for you. And when you avoid this effort, you don't just get results, then your brain gives you a simple explanation. You are not intelligent. But that is not the real problem. The method you use is the real problem, not your intelligence. You should know that great learners don't first acquire knowledge and then solve problems. They acquire knowledge while solving problems. So when you read and reread, your brain is in the passive mode. You are not building knowledge. You are only recognizing what you have already seen. This creates a dangerous illusion that I know this, I know everything. But when the question changes slightly, you struggle because your brain never learned how to retrieve the information. Now think about this situation. When you use Google Maps, you can reach a destination easily. But if I ask you to go there again without the map, you hesitate. Why? Because you only followed the path, but you didn't build it in your mind. You were not actively involved in finding the path, so the path is not clearly formed inside you. Reading is like using the Google Maps. Active retrieval is building your own internal map. And in exams, there is no map at all. That's why you struggle to retrieve ideas. So, what you should do, don't just read. Close the book, try to recall what you studied, write it down and explain it again, then solve questions from the topic you learned. Now, here is something very important. Even while solving problems, your brain will try to guide you, but not in the right direction. It might misguide you. It will push you toward easy question and make you avoid difficult ones because it wants comfort. So you need to be conscious about this particular process. Don't just follow what feels easy. Choose questions of different difficulty levels, and when you get stuck, don't avoid it or don't skip it. That's where real learning happens. You can also try explaining the concept to someone else or even explain it to yourself. When you do this, you will clearly see what you understood or where you are confused. This confusion is valuable. This is where real learning begins. Most students don't fail because they are not intelligent. They fail because they repeat the wrong method again and again. Reading feels easy, but easy does not mean effective. Learning is not about how much you read, it's about how well you can bring the information back when you need it. So, from today, make one simple change. Don't just read and reread, recall ideas, solve problems, explain the ideas to yourself, or you can explain it to your colleagues. It will feel difficult in the beginning, but the difficulty is the sign that your brain is actually learning. Small mistakes in learning habits create big failures. Fix the method now, and your results will change. Thank you.